study session of the Aurora City Council for Monday, July 8, 2024 is called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Kaufman.
Here.
Councilmember Bergen.
Here.
Councilmember Coombs.
Present.
Councilmember Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Hancock. Here. Councilmember Drinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Medina. Councilmember Murillo.
Present.
Councilmember Sundberg.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sabanek.
There's no mayor's update. Are there any issue updates? Seeing none, item number, the consent calendar, item number 2A through, is there any opposition for moving the consent calendar forward, item number 2A through 2K? Seeing none, the consent calendar will move forward, item number 2A through 2K. Item number 3A, amendment of Aurora Code, section 5255 regarding conditions of probation. Judge Day is not here.
Actually, Mayor, I was able to join.
Okay.
Sorry that I don't have my camera on. I'm a little beat up. I was involved in a serious accident.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's why I won't be there in person tonight for the swearing in of interim city attorney Jack Majork as well. Judge Billy Stiggers will be there to administer the oath, but so I wanted to get here at least virtually to tell you about this ordinance to amend the code for conditions of probation. It removes the requirement for juveniles to be fingerprinted as a condition of probation. There's really no need for that. And there's also the difficulty of administering and getting the fingerprints done for juveniles. So we're asking to remove that condition. All other conditions of probation would apply to juvenile probationers, though. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions of the Chief Judge? Seeing none, is there any objection to moving item 3A forward? Item 3A will move forward. Chief Judge Sean Day, thank you so much, and get well soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Item number 4A, court administration updates. Candace Atkinson, Court Administrator and Detention Director.
Good evening. Again, it's Candace Atkinson, Court Administrator, Detention Director. I was asked to provide updates periodically to the study session with council. I've had a hard time getting on the agenda. You guys have been so busy.
I'm sorry,
they
I kept
bumping
pushing
me
away.
down the road.
Yeah.
So I do have my staff here tonight. I wanted to make sure that you have the opportunity to meet my senior staff, as I think you get to meet a lot of the other city members, but not from our side unless you come to jail or you come to court, which other than some council members, yes. But we do welcome you all to come at any time that you want to either tour the detention center or the jail. So I'll go ahead, do you have it up, Kyle? Or did it go away?
One second, it says scripture.
I have most of my staff here. I am missing my deputy court administrator and my case management manager, but I do have somebody stepping in for her, so I'll call Elizabeth up so that she'll update us on both case management and probation.
Good evening. My name's Elizabeth Edgecombe, and I've been employed with the City of Aurora for about 1 year. I spent 25 years in the City and County of Denver, and so have a long history of experience in the criminal justice field. I started here a year ago, just last week, in case management, and 2 months ago I was placed as the interim chief of probation, and because Trina Sparks is out on a family emergency, I am filling in for case management. In the past year, case management has been incredibly busy and has implemented several significant changes that positively impact the court and our community, including, and the information's up there as well, court text reminders, and this helps reduce clients' failure to appear rates. We streamlined processes and worked with the Office of Alternative Defense Counsel to ensure faster and more efficient processing for assigning conflict counsel to indigent clients. We implemented an online payment process, so clients no longer need to appear in court or send their fines and fees via snail mail. We implemented a paperless warrant process and worked with IT to establish a web portal for secured scanning and organization of court case records. We also participated in the National Center for State Courts caseload study. As you can see by the graphs there, our revenue is expected to slightly increase in 2024, and I believe the online payment system is helping generate more revenue there. However, our SOE balances, stay of execution, are expected to increase by approximately 20%. And this is an area where I believe we can do further examination. Our filings for traffic violations are up 5.5%, while our total filings are projected to decrease by 14% from 2023. And the reduction in filings may be a contributing factor to our projected reduction in jury trials for 2024. As you can see, we're expected to have less jury trials this year. One of the big things that we've been tackling is the interpreter utilization is steadily increasing. And this may be directly correlated to the influx of our migrant population. The cost of interpreters has also increased this year. We increased the hourly rate for interpreters, which happened across the state, and case management worked on streamlining the interpreter hiring process for this as well. We hope in 2024 to just continue to work with IT to go fully paperless. In terms of probation, I've been in the role as interim chief of probation for 2 months and still have a lot to learn about the team and our processes. So again, I just ask for your patience. What I can say about the probation team is that they are incredibly passionate, dedicated to ensuring both the needs of the community and ensuring clients are offered the resources and tools necessary to make changes while working to ensure community safety. In the past year, probation, like case management, has been busy working on streamlining processes. They went completely paperless for all new probation clients' cases, and they're still working on becoming paperless for our old files. We implemented the Victim Notification Program pursuant to ACC 5043, which, as you know, affords victims of domestic violence the same rights afforded to victims under the Colorado VRA Victims' Rights Amendment. This was a big undertaking to ensure probation was in alignment with the state VRA, and I want to give a special thanks to one of our probation officers, Erica Stanford, who took on this project and did an excellent job creating the bones of the Victim Notification Program. We are now notifying victims of all the critical stages listed in the current slide. And since I came on 2 months ago, we've worked with IT to streamline this program, maintain more statistical information, generate automatic letter notifications, and we've created bilingual written notifications. Our projected new cases are on track and scheduled. We anticipate that they're going to be pretty close to the number of projected new cases that we had, or projected number of cases we had last year. However, due to some changes in court settings and procedures, probation's caseload has increased by approximately 9%. As reflected on the slide, this also has impacted our successful completion of probation clients to revocation ratio. Clients are needing more time on probation due to the changes in the judicial process, and also there's been a lag in the time that treatment agencies can get clients in to complete their evaluations and assessments. In 2024, we hope to continue to work with IT to streamline our internal program, A-Paper processes to work in alignment with case management so that we're able to scan and share documents and essentially marry up those two programs. We want to continue to update and improve internal policies and procedures, including statistical information, expand our community resource database to support and increase positive outcomes and successful probation completions, and continue to work on improving the VNOT, the Victim Notification Program.
Any questions? Councilmember Bergen.
Yeah, just, you mentioned that you need more time for the probation cases. You know approximately how much more time that's taking?
It's been around 60 days, just because the process now is that when a client is sentenced, the court orders that they complete their DV assessment and then start treatment after their review date. And so sometimes there's a lag because of the treatment providers, and sometimes there's this gap in time there. And so the time for a client to successfully complete all those, all their classes and requirements is about 60 days longer.
And it was what before?
A year. So most clients are sentenced to a year of probation. And so,
No, what was the time required to process before? You said it's now 60 days to process the cases?
no, it's about 60 days extension on their probation is what's happening.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay, I got it.
Any other questions?
No.
Other questions? Thank you.
I do have a couple questions.
Councilmember Maria.
Just on the paperless piece and like digitizing, I imagine that's an undertaking. Help me out here. Is this just like access for like an internal standpoint to paperless, or do clients of the court also have access, their attorneys? Like, what does that look like?
We haven't done like e-filing like other courts do. And Kyle can probably speak more to that. What it was with case management, that was an internal program, and he's working on creating that program so that case management, judicial, and probation all communicate together, paperless, because right now they have paper files.
Okay, so internally, we're cleaning our stuff up, but we haven't quite done that out to like the public-facing version, I guess.
So there are several things that are public-facing that where, like, if we're needing to send out discovery for defense counsel or whatever that would be, we are sending out digital packets of all the things that we've scanned, and that's been established for a while now. We also have, there's a bunch of police reports and various things that are digitalized already, and those are available. But there are definitely some things that are in paper only right now, and we are needing people to go back at fill and scan those in. Our case management department has done an amazing job over the last 6 months to start scanning in everything that comes across their desk. So we're slowly getting there, and I think this is a great path forward. It's a huge success for my case management.
Do we have a timeline on what the, I guess, other side would look like?
It's often there's things that we can't share, and it all kind of depends on what it is. But yeah, it's one of the projects that we have slated is to try and set up a portal for defendants to be able to log in and check all their information. We kind of have to go through legal and make sure that everything's right before we release anything. Just like the police records section, they have a massive book of like what's allowed to be released and what's not allowed to be released. It's
But like,
a
let's
huge
say you go
undertaking.
through all of that, what would be like a timeline for the things that are allowed to be shared?
I think that if we were to get the all okayed for doing sharing, it would be fairly quick, but it is mostly legal issues, not really a like resource issue.
But discovery between the city attorney, that is electronic now. So that part through the prosecutor's office, that is electronic now.
Okay.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
We're not done yet, no.
Oh, no, I just want to say who's
Oh,
next.
okay, I thought you were excusing.
With each speaker, could you introduce yourself and your position?
Yeah, my name is Chief Eric Gibbons. I'm in charge of the marshals and security down the courthouse. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing us to come up and present. Real quick, I'm going to scoot up a little bit so I can see. So the first thing, let me give you a little bit about myself, first of all. U.S. Army vet. Thank you. There you go. U.S. Army vet, and before I came to Aurora, I spent 29 years with the Denver Sheriff Department. I've been in Aurora for 15 months, and it's been an adventure. I mean, when you take over any department, first thing you want to look at is policies and procedures. if your policies and procedures are the backbones of your department. So when I took over this department, I had six policies and procedures. Right now, I have 42. We've really picked it up. I need to have my marshals going in the right direction, and the only way they're going to get that is from me in policy and procedure. Another thing, the first week when I took over, I sat down with all the staff and I talked to them and I tried to figure out what our shortcomings was. I was surprised to hear for uniforms, they were allowed maybe one uniform every 3 years, and they had to ask for a uniform. So that was unacceptable. That was very shocking to me. Another thing they brought up is they didn't have any less lethal options inside the courtroom. They had their weapon and they had OC spray, but you can't just spray OC spray. You're going to contaminate the whole courtroom. So there was a lot of things that needed to be done. Also with our weapons, we were going out to Aurora's range and we were being denied. You have to qualify out there 2 years, so we wasn't up to standard. So I know Aurora PD just went with their new system. I think they got air conditioning and heating on their weapons. So we brought all that to Candace, and with her help, she told me and the chief marshal, or the chief of detention, to give her a comprehensive list of things that we needed to make our staff successful and to keep our community and our employees safe. So we submitted this big list, and in Denver, we call it a wish list. We might submit 8 things, and we're lucky to get 1 thing passed. So when my court administrator submitted it, I was surprised 3 months later that she came back to me and said everything was approved. So at this time, I got to say thank you, Mayor, thank you, Council, and thank you, Candace, for pushing it forward and making these things happen that we needed. Another thing that was alarming to me is with our department, there was no FTO training, Field Training Officer Program. So when we came on, I asked them, okay, well, if we get somebody new, how are they trained? They said they just put them at the front door and they gradually train them as they go along. So I wasn't going to allow that. I chose 2 team members who wanted to be FTO officers. We sent them to school, got them trained up, and at the beginning of 2024, I was allowed to hire 2 new officers. They're down here in the front row, closer to me on the left. They are the first ones who went through our FTO program. Very successful. This picture here was taken on their last day of FTO, and at that time I had an opportunity to have them raise their right hand and swear them in, not knowing that with the Marshals Division, it has never been done before. So everybody was so surprised, I just asked everybody to raise their right hand. I swear the whole team in. So as that is all going on, as I'm coming in the door in January 2023, we're hit with House Bill 21-1280, the 48-hour bond hearing. So that had to be done on the weekend for our Sunday court. So we had to put together a plan to make this happen. So I had to go back to my staff and said, hey, we're going to have to rotate each Sunday to get in here 2 officers to get Sunday court done. I have to thank the mayor, because the mayor came out one Sunday with his time and sat there and watched how we really get through the process. At the same time, Judge Day came to me like 4 months later and said, hey, we're going to have to be in compliance with House Bill 1222, no bond DV hearings. So, you know, the courthouse was built in 1990, and our current holding area is not big enough to take on 2 video courts. So I went to the court administrator, and we had to think outside the box. We got together and we kicked it around, and we came up with an idea of going over to detention and asking the chief if we could use one of his pods to convert to a video courtroom, and he agreed. So we moved forward. We had 5 months to get it together. I have to thank IT, because they were jumping through hoops, running wires, getting everything done. I have to thank facilities, but because they jumped in there, had to cut down beds. They had to paint, had to get a lot of stuff done. So we had 5 months to get that done January 1st, 2024. We were successful on getting that done. It was running so well with Arapahoe. Now they want to do it full-time with us. So that's going to alleviate a lot of transports. We can do a lot of that currently where we are. So it eliminates our transports, which is going to save us on liability. It's going to save the city on gas and services on the vehicle. I mean, things are going so well, we reached out to Adams, and we're trying to get them on board to do it too. Next slide. Oh, you got it right here. So right here, the picture in the middle, we'll go off of that first. So that's the video courtroom we converted in the detention area. If you guys get an opportunity, I'm going to challenge City Council. I know Councilwoman Jabrowski's been out there. I know the mayor's been out there. I would like for the rest of City Council to be able to come out and really see what we got going on. Really meet my team and see how we serve the citizens and the employees of Aurora. The first picture and the third picture, we put that up there because on a daily basis, there's 300 people coming through our front door. Very, very busy. I put these pictures up there because there are some shortfalls in there that we need to be aware of, and you guys need to be aware of. Like I said, this building was built in 1990, and we haven't done any major upgrades for security. If we don't do that, we can't keep our citizens safe as well as our employees. So I put that picture up there, and I'm not going to tell you our shortfalls because I know this is public, but when you guys come down to see me, give me 30, 40 minutes, walk with me, see my operation, and I'll point out everything for you. So I know finance is going to really submit something. We got another ask coming up, so I'm going to have to ask you guys for your help right now with that. So when you guys get an opportunity, once again, come down and see how we operate. Other than that, I'll take my time to introduce the Chief of Detention, Lance Alexander.
First of all, I want to say that he said I agreed to give up my space. I obviously don't drink milk. He does, so I felt threatened, so that's how he got the space. But it's been a pleasure to have a good partnership with the Chief Marshal in order to bring both agencies forward. I'm Lance Alexander, Chief of Detentions. I've been with the City of Aurora roughly 21 months. I came here from the Denver Sheriff's Department. Well, I retired after serving 29 years with that agency. So I've been having the fortunate opportunity to work with Eric for 29 years. Next slide.
Just tap anywhere.
Oh.
Or down there you go.
You can see in the picture with me, that's Deputy Chief Paul Oliva. He also retired from the Denver Sheriff's Department after serving 32 years. The three of us all served in an executive level position with the Denver Sheriff's Department prior to coming here. Paul has been with us for, I want to say, just 16 months. So we all three of us have under 2 years. As Eric said, when you come into a new agency, you have to first look at policies and procedures to see how they're doing things, to see how they're conducting business. And we determined right away the jail was not doing a lot of things according to best practices. Some of our policies hadn't been touched since 2003. That's someone's entire 20-year career, and it hadn't been touched. We were lacking on several policies that were non-existent that we had to implement. So that brought us current, and we've been blessed to have a wonderful partnership with Angela from the City Attorney's Office, who actually every policy that we create, before we even publish it, we send it to her to review. Sometimes she'll say, you need to change this, you need to tweak this. And we welcome that. We make those changes, she approves it, Candace approves it, and we push it out forward to staff. For our first slide, that's our total intakes. Those are the intakes that are being processed through the courts. For fingerprints only, they are not being housed with us. From January 2022 to May 2024, those intakes have increased 20%. The next one are total detainees. Those are people that are being arrested that are coming through the Aurora Detention Center and being processed. Those have increased from January 2022 to May of 2024, have increased by 31.8%. That is a huge increase, and we expect that increase to continue for the remainder of the year into next year. Just to touch on some of our accomplishments, I won't hit everything because we've been so busy throughout this past year and a half, that there's no way to put all of our accomplishments up there. One thing I do want to highlight that's not on the slide is that when I started in 2022, we were down 39 positions. 39 positions, that's our staff getting hammered with mandatory overtime. over and over and over again. Now, today, we're down 3 positions. We got all those positions filled. We currently have 11 people in background going through process to fill those 3 positions, as well as placing some in an overhire bucket so we can prepare for 4 retirements that are coming up at the end of the year. On top of that, we established our detainee uniforms that are more gender responsive. When I came on, we had female detainees that were in one piece. We gave them that one piece when they weren't dressed appropriately. However, we give them a one piece saying you're not dressed appropriately, but we give you a one piece and tell you when it's time to use the restroom, you have to unzip it and flash everybody around. That was not gender responsive. So now we have a 2-piece uniform for female detainees. Our academy. Prior to my arrival, we did not have an academy. Now we do have a formalized 8-week academy where every staff is trained, taken through scenarios, and we teach them best practices. When I came on, we were given a key, tell you to go ahead and sit with somebody for 2 weeks. We were done. Now we have an 8-week academy. After that 8-week academy, we have a formalized FTO, Field Training Officer Program, where once they're done with the academy, we send them through a FTO academy for 5 weeks, where they sit one-on-one with the officer and learn how to do the job, to learn what best practices are. And most importantly, we train everybody to do the same job the same way. In the past, we had people doing one job one way, another job another person doing it differently. Everybody was doing the same job differently. Now, everybody is doing the same job according to policies and procedures and according to best practices, which in turn has dramatically, significantly decreased our uses of force, as well as lawsuits and complaints. I don't have the figures on that, but I'm sure the city attorney's office can pat me on the back and throw some numbers out there if he had to. I think that's it that I want to highlight. So, any questions?
Questions, Councilmember Burton?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say fantastic job. I'm really appreciative of the presentation because, you know, it's nice to have that update, but phenomenal. Thank you.
Councilmember Sonberg?
Yes, nice job. When I had visited with the Councilmember Jurinski sometime back several months ago, how long was that? A year ago?
No, it was
Anyway.
like 6 months,
Oh.
5 months.
Yeah.
There was a problem with HR, the log jams. We'd lose good people because the process was taking so long. Has there been an improvement in the waiting time?
Oh, significant improvement. During that time when you two stopped by, we had people that were in the process roughly 9 months for various reasons. Now we're getting people in the process and in the building within maybe 2 months.
2 months, went from 9 to 2, thank God.
Right. It's a significant change. And I think the true problem was, it wasn't that HR wasn't doing their job. I think they were transitioning into new staff, new leadership with Sarah Hansen. She came in, she put her spin on things, started changing things. We started having a good relationship where I can tell her what was broken and what I needed tweaked, and she was able to add her expertise and add some things that I didn't catch myself. And now we have an excellent process in place.
Further discussion, questions? Seeing none, thanks.
Kyle's up next.
Hey. I'm Kyle Peterson. I am the manager of Court Information Technology. My department does all of the integrations and applications and development for the courthouse. We are there mostly to respond to issues day to day and also to try and keep up with all the new state legislature coming through, this constant battle with all the law changes that come through. My main task, or my main goal since I became manager these last 2 years, has been to try and get rid of all of our legacy code and try and modernize things and make it more maintainable for the future. Trying to streamline all of our workflows and processes and just trying to help everybody with all the needs throughout the courthouse. We've migrated a lot of our old terminal applications into web apps, and so this is like an example of what the court system would have looked like in the past, and this is what we're moving to now. It's huge improvements. We've been working, one of our big tasks right now has been trying to go paperless and go fully paperless. There's certain departments that had like the majority of their things paperless, but there were still papers flying around. We have worked towards setting up a new scanning process and trying to not just scan things in, but also eliminate the paper up front, so that way we can do digital scanning and keep all of our documents paper or digital from the start to end. This is one of the workflow pages, kind of giving an example case of what kind of stuff might be on a court case. That's what I have. I know we're a bit over time, so are there more questions or?
Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Candace?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you. I think you can see how much, knowledge we have and the luck that we've been able to attract some really key people to move us forward. Kyle has been with us since he was 15. So once we get him, we keep him. But I just wanted to thank you.
Yeah, but you're
Are there child labor laws?
Well, there wasn't at the time.
He doesn't have What do you mean? He's 19.
Hopefully we can come in more often, so maybe now that we've updated you, we can make it a little bit more condensed. But I don't know if anybody has any additional questions.
Any other questions?
Thank you again.
Candace, thank you for the presentation, appreciate it. Item number 5A, amending Aurora City Code. Councilmember Gardner on firearms.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so this item would amend, well, really it's an opt-out. Recently, in the last legislative session, legislature passed a law that banned the concealed carry of firearms in a variety of buildings, and one of those on the long list of buildings was municipal government buildings, which would include the Aurora Municipal Center. As some may or may not know, we currently do allow concealed carry of firearms in the Aurora Municipal Center, and so this ordinance would opt us out of that state law. I should mention, when the legislature passed Senate Bill 131, they did allow, they provided an opt-out provision which allowed local governments to opt out, and so to me this is really a local control issue. I don't think it's the purview of the state legislature to decide how we should manage the safety and security of our building. That's up to us as the city council makers in the city. It's up to the police department. It's really our decision, and so frankly the legislature in Denver, and it's not any of their business how we manage our building, and so this allows us to opt out of that state law and take back the local control of how we manage security in our building.
Okay, discussion, Councilmember Bergen.
Yeah, thank you. And just for clarification, Councilmember Gardner, I know it has at the very bottom the opt-out. The opt-out does not change the applicability of Section A of Section 94-154. So if I'm understanding correctly, if we wanted to prohibit firearms, we could post that, and then that would be our prerogative, correct?
Correct, yeah. This just says we're not going to follow the state law, that we're going to set our own rules. But yes, if we wanted to ban the concealed carry of firearms, we could set that at a policy level, at a city council level.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Further questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, is there any objection to moving item number 5A forward? Seeing no objection, item number 5A will move forward. Item number 7A, multipurpose entertainment venue feasibility study update.
All right, good evening, Mayor, City Council members, Laura Perry, Deputy City Manager. So over a year ago, City Council tasked staff to undergo a multi-purpose venue feasibility study. That process started with 2 phases. So the first was the alignment phase, which really involved getting stakeholders together, aligning goals, aligning vision. We had a conversation with City Council at the April 2022 Spring Workshop regarding the provision to move forward with a formal feasibility study for a 2,000 to 3,000 seat multi-purpose venue. That then led to us hiring Johnson Consulting through a competitive process to complete a feasibility analysis that will be undertaken over the next year. That feasibility analysis includes various tasks, such as market analysis, analyzing the economic impact on Aurora, looking at various sites, funding, financing, and community engagement. This slide visually depicts the various stages of all of those tasks that I spoke to. The key takeaway on this slide is that at the end of every box, there will be a check-in with City Council, and you'll see the star. That's where we are today. So I'm pleased to be joined by Ryan Johnson and Mark De La Tour. Brian's with Johnson Consulting, Mark is with MIG, and both will provide an update and overview of the work done to date.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Ryan Johnson with Johnson Consulting. I'd like to just go briefly through an agenda. We're going to have to go through some of these items relatively quickly, just given the time constraints. So first, project status update. Really want to focus on the outreach strategy and then the findings from our market assessment and strategy. And then some really interesting data that we've developed is where Aurora residents are consuming their entertainment and sports programming. So I think that'll be very interesting. And then identifying some potential case studies from a national scale that could be applicable for the project here in Aurora. So with that being said, we've really completed most of our task 1, which is our kickoff and orientation, really largely complete with our market analysis, as well as our regional inventory and opportunity assessment. And what we really would like to discuss with council today is the proposed stakeholder engagement that we've developed. We've had some engagement with city council, city organizations, and other departments, but really want to talk about the public outreach into this important project. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Mark to go through that.
Thanks, Ryan. Mark De La Torre, Deputy Director, actually Director of Denver Operations for MIG. Going to walk you through a few of our findings from our initial conversations with city-affiliated organizations, and then, as Ryan noted, talk about the broader engagement strategy at this point in the analysis, right? It'll be multi-phase in terms of engagement, but at the starting point, we want to make sure we do that right. From the get-go, what we've learned so far is that there's been a long time coming of general interest in some sort of facility of some sort, but there's a lack of definition and alignment of what that specifically is. So the more technical analysis that Johnson will be leading, as well as the engagements, hoping to clarify that. There is a growing, stronger emphasis on sports and entertainment. There is an expressed desire to not just generate revenue, but to keep the dollars that are currently leaking out of Aurora in Aurora as part of this endeavor. And then the location is going to be a big driving factor of where and what this might be. So the strategy at large, as Ryan noted, we've had some conversations with various affiliated City of Aurora organizations and departments. Part of our continued outreach will be with site owners, developers, and promoters, but an important part, as Ryan noted for tonight, is talking about what the actual community wants of this, right? We know what the numbers tell us, we know what the data tells us, we want to understand what the community wants and needs to this. So the first touch for our community outreach is what we're phrasing as a consumer preference survey. It's really trying to understand, at the broadest sense, what is the desire for a facility of this type for the city and community of Aurora. As part of that, we've been coordinating with Kim and the communications department to understand what's been successful in prior engagement efforts in Aurora. Where do we need to make sure we're extra focused in getting the word out and getting the opportunity to provide feedback for this process, some of that being through pop-up and intercept events at various locations. Part of it is in collaboration with other organizations and nonprofits that have been working in an engagement capacity. But through the consumer preference survey, the goal is to understand what those major program elements are before we would continue following additional analysis that the Johnson team will lead with more program-specific outreach. So once we have a bit more of direction of what that ultimate program looks like, we'll start to tailor additional outreach that's focused on that particular type of program. So again, at the broadest scale, the goal is really to understand what the Aurora residents' preferences are for a project like this, and to make sure that we tailor the user's level of interest in the survey construction. So building in skip logic at a survey level to make sure if someone has interest in talking about sports, they have the opportunity to do so. If someone does not care anything about sports, we can have a conversation or a tailored part of the survey that's more focused on the types of events or uses that they want to provide additional insights into. Deployment options, I noted a bit briefly there, but again, starting online with a wide-reaching survey platform using what you'll have as part of your city's engagement platform to date, and then looking to opportunities to be there in person or providing more nimble digital strategies at various in-person events. This is going to be a bit of a segue into handing the floor back to Ryan and thinking through some of the technical aspects that they'll be looking into in terms of venue glossary, aggregation, and using those types of broader scale nomenclature to ask more specific questions. So slowly stepping through precedent imagery to talk at a broader level about the types of uses or types of facilities that might be appropriate in support of the greater vision for Aurora residents.
Do you want to see if there's any questions?
Before I hand it back over to my friends at Johnson Consulting, does anyone have any questions?
Questions? Please proceed.
All right, thank you, Mark. Going the wrong direction here. So just a recap of our process again, really the items on the left-hand side of the screen at the top really focus on the demographic analysis and industry trends, so what's happening locally in the community, but also national trends that apply to these project types. Then looking at the competitive landscape, so what's an inventory and what types of facilities are already present in not just Aurora, but also really the whole Front Range is what we've really been looking at for this. And then also, like I mentioned, looking at those national comparables as, projects to evaluate for lessons learned and strategies. And those really feed down into our market demand and feasibility recommendations. And as Mark just described, our stakeholder inputs also feed up into our technical assessment as well as the site analysis. And that really will lead to a strategic plan, recommendations for the council to consider for the advancement of the project, also how it could be funded, who should operate it, and various operating metrics for the project. So with that being said, there was an initial phase done, and Ryan's going to describe that process and then our reconciliation.
So in the initial inventory, there was some preliminary research done as far as the inventory of sports, entertainments, and other cultural assets in the region of Aurora. So to overall update that inventory, we widened our parameters. So the inventory radius is all the way from Cheyenne to Pueblo through the Front Range. For arts and entertainment venues, we expanded the threshold from 225 to 4,000 to 1,000 to 10,000. We're also focusing on venues between 2,000 and 4,000 due to what we think might be most competitive in Aurora. And then for sports venues, the first inventory picked up every single athletic surface in a 14-mile radius of where we're sitting right now. We're only looking at sports venues with a threshold of at least 6 surfaces. That's what we consider to be tournament-ready facilities. So these would be regional economic development drivers rather than just a swimming pool.
So you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, that was the inventory that was developed through the first effort. And then what we've done is really, again, looking at that entire Front Range from Cheyenne down to Pueblo. And the reason why that's important for us, as new products develop throughout this whole zone, most notably the new outdoor amphitheater in Colorado Springs is coming online, just really making sure we have a pulse of what's happening. Each of these venues is promoted by a promoter and operated by an operator, and usually partners with city and counties to fund and provide oversight. So understanding the routing landscape and what gaps in the market with the consumer preference survey that we're going to be working on will really inform us if there's any gaps in the market that this project could fill. And again, this is the cut down, so we've reduced the range of seats that we're looking at from a much smaller scale, really now focusing on the 2,000 to 4,000 seats, and we actually might increase that upper range as well, but we're still considering that component. But there's a lot fewer venues in this specific size category for us to evaluate.
So again, like I talked about earlier.
Councilmember, I'm sorry, Councilmember Bergen.
Just, can you go back one
Yeah.
slide, please? With the dots? Yeah. You probably can't zoom in. The blue are, it says, now I can't read it. What does it say? Local
Meeting venues.
meeting venues. Does that depict a certain size meeting venue? Because I'm looking at the dots and I'm like, I don't know if we even have any.
It does. And we have a table in the appendix of this presentation that outlines each dot that's represented for both the events and meeting venues as well as the entertainment.
Okay, and those are public, right? Not private?
Correct. Well, some are quasi-public-private, and then I would say there may be one or two that are private, but the majority of public assembly facilities are publicly operated and owned.
Okay, thank you.
So again, it's just showing the contrast between the earlier audit, picking up all of the athletic facilities within a 15-mile radius of our city center. And the table down below is just showing those tournament-ready facilities. So as you can see, there's really only one in Aurora, the Aurora Sports Park. The Gaylord also has the ability to host indoor sporting events, but that's really not their primary line of business. This is a little snapshot into the types of things we'll be looking at for our market assessment. So what this is really showing here is that Aurora residents really do have a high propensity to spend on sports and entertainment venues. However, there's not as much opportunity within the city of Aurora, so this is really showing your opportunity to increase the dollars spent in Aurora and also maintain them in Aurora. So one of the softwares that we use is Placer AI. Placer is a foot traffic analytics software that uses our cell phones to track us. So they geofence certain locations, so we have these ones up here that you might all be familiar with. So this is really showing you that 70% of Aurora residents are spending their dollars outside of Aurora on entertainment. Another feature of Placer is showing where visitors go before and after their main destination. So this is an example of the Mission Ballroom showing the percentage of visits to a multitude of places before and after the concert.
And we're not going to go through all these, but these case studies are organized in the top three: the Toyota Music Factory in Irving, which is outside of Dallas, Music Street, which is planned indoor, outdoor, also in the Dallas market, and then 4th Street Lives in Louisville. These are really entertainment amenities. They're not an entertainment district in and of themselves. They support larger public assembly facilities in the case of 4th Street Live, but Music Street and the Toyota Music Factory are really standalone operations. I think the middle band is really where we'd like to focus your attention. These, the Parkway Bank Park in Rosemont, the Rio Nuevo District in Tucson, Arizona, and the Arena District in Columbus, Ohio. These are all entertainment districts that are funded by public-private partnerships that also surround public assembly facilities. So it really is the full package of potential development that we could see happening somewhere in Aurora. The bottom tier, the Grand Experience, this is a project in West Des Moines which has a really strong economic development and growth trajectory, very similar to Aurora. They've already developed a really successful indoor sports complex, and now they're focusing on a water park, convention center, and some entertainment activities. The last two, the Mission Ballroom, most of you may be familiar with, is here in Denver. That's an AEG product that developed and very successful, but it's really a standalone facility, and maybe 5-10 years from now, the area around that will get further developed, but it's really built to provide entertainment of a different category than what's present in the market. And then the salt shed's interesting in Chicago. This is located in the old Morton Salt Building that was converted to an indoor-outdoor music venue. And this will actually ultimately serve as the gateway to another large mixed-use development district that's probably about 5 to 10 years out from really taking off. So those are the case studies that we recommend. Any additional case studies to consider or refinement of this list would be welcome, or any questions about these.
Well, quick, and then let me say, and then I'll go to Councilmember Jurenski. We added an option today to look at Gaylord. So which one of these would comport with looking at Gaylord?
Which one to replace?
Which one would comport to looking at the Gaylord?
So, a new category, and for the Gaylord, they have a very unique operating model. And I think what would probably be most apropos would be to look at another existing Gaylord development that's already a little bit further along.
Okay. Councilmember Jurenski.
I just wanted to see, are you guys coordinating with the AEDC?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been helping us facilitate all the sites that we're looking at, as well as the tours, and they've been a really huge support for us.
Okay.
Further discussion? Seeing none, thank you.
So the type of information that we're going to collect on some of these case studies once we refine this list is we're going to look at their submarkets, we're going to look at how these facilities were developed, funded, how they're operating today, how they're funded, what kind of programming they have, their marketing strategies, and we're really going to take those best practices, what they did great, what they didn't do so great, and apply that to our recommendations for the facility in Aurora. And it'll also inform how we might expect a new facility in Aurora to operate.
And just the last comment, we really take two analytical approaches to this. The top-down approach, which is looking at the case studies that we talked about and how they operate. And then the bottom-up approach really is looking at the business you're sending to other facilities in this market. 70% of your residents having to leave every year to find their entertainment is that's a very significant number of itself. And then I think our consumer preference survey will also really feed into this bottom-up approach that we're using to analyze the project. So with that being said, and why we're here with you all is to really get your sign-off on what's next. The consumer preference survey, really formalizing the strategy to align with any feedback or questions that you all have, to continue our market assessment, conduct additional case study research on what we presented, as well as any other inputs that you all have, and then really thinking about the next opportunity to update council with our work.
Any further questions? Councilmember Burton.
Just when you were looking, you had that one slide where it shows distance from, was it distance from here, from this location?
I believe we use the city hall as the actual.
Okay, because I think on, arts maybe was a different distance than sports, I can't remember. But you are looking at the entire city because, one of them I think was less than 15 miles, and that, could exclude part of the city of Aurora. So.
That was the previous study.
Yeah.
So, that was a previous study?
Yeah, we've expanded it in our current work. So we've actually taken that work and built and expanded upon it. So
all right.
it's a little bit of progress.
Further discussion, Councilmember Mario.
Thanks. I think I mentioned this last time, but as far as case studies go, did you ever look into the communities from the International Making Cities Livable conference?
I'm sorry, I missed that last part.
International Making Cities Livable conference. They have case studies around the country that Carmel, Indiana.
Oh, sure.
Others, there's some international, but there's a good chunk that are here in the States. So I just wanted to know if you...
We'll absolutely look into that.
Okay, just to offer that. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
And obviously, the failure of Broomfield.
Absolutely critical.
Further questions?
Mayor Gardner.
Oh, Councilmember Gardner.
Yeah, and I believe I mentioned this to you all when we met a couple months ago, but the entertainment district in Augusta, Georgia, North Augusta, South Carolina, it's a minor league baseball stadium, parking complex, and then hotel and bars and restaurants. It's an entertainment district. I think when we met, I mentioned that one to you, but I'd be curious to see how that might be analogous to what we're looking at in Aurora.
Absolutely. Excuse me, and I think the project that I described in Rosemont has a lot of those same elements.
Yeah, the one in Rosemont is very similar, yeah.
Yeah, so, we could add that in as well potentially, but I think the dynamic from a market similarity perspective between Rosemont and Aurora, given the proximity to Chicago and O'Hare Airport, I think is really the most appropriate for this market, but we can also look at the other example as well.
No, I'm okay with that if you think that covers it and it's more analogous to Aurora, because we are, with our proximity to DIA, Rosemont is next door to O'Hare, so it might be a little bit more similar.
Further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Seeing no further business before the study session, we are adjourned until the regular council meeting at 6:30 p.m.